Hi, K-pop lovers. Welcome back to our channel. Before anything else, please hit that like button right now, drop a comment below telling me how you felt watching Rose in that interview, and subscribe if you haven't already because we cover Blackpink with honesty and love every single week. Ring that notification bell too, because you are going to want to be here for everything that's coming. And please, stay until the very end of this video, because the last thing I'm going to share about Rosé's journey this year is the kind of moment that puts everything in perspective. Trust me. Don't skip ahead. Okay. Let's talk about January 28, 2026. Because on that day, something happened that the entire internet was not prepared for. One of the biggest pop stars on the planet, a woman who had just made Grammy history, who had just topped charts in over 50 countries, who was days away from opening the most prestigious music awards show in the world, sat down on a podcast, got asked a simple question about her love life, and broke down in tears. And blinks all over the world felt their hearts absolutely shatter in real time. Blackpink's Rose appeared on Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy podcast on January 28, 2026, where a seemingly straightforward question about whether she was dating prompted tears, underscoring what Rose described as the pressure of having every aspect of her personal life closely examined and interpreted. K-pop Wiki, that's the moment we're talking about today. And it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't performative. It was raw, real, and deeply human, which is exactly why it hit so hard. But to understand why that moment meant so much, you need to understand where Rose was in her life at that exact point in time. Because January 28, 2026 was not a random Tuesday. It was one of the most extraordinary weeks of Rosé's entire career. The podcast appearance came just days ahead of the 2026 Grammy Awards, where Rose was nominated for Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best Pop Duo/Group Performance for her hit collaboration APT with Bruno Mars, making her the first K-pop soloist to ever earn nominations in the major general field categories. Wikipedia, let that sink in. The first K-pop soloist ever in Grammy history. In the most important categories that exist in the music industry. And when Rose was told about the historic nominations, she said, "I'm getting chills right now. I think it'll be a moment that proves to myself so many things that I grew up doubting." TikTok. A woman who grew up doubting herself. Who beat out 700 other people at an open audition in 2012 to get into YG Entertainment as a teenager. Who relocated to South Korea alone, trained for years in one of the most brutal entertainment systems in the world, and emerged as one of the most globally recognized artists of her generation. That woman, sitting on top of the music world, still had things she doubted about herself. And when she sat down across from Alex Cooper, some of those doubts came flooding out in a way nobody expected. When host Alex Cooper asked the 28-year-old star if she was seeing anyone right now, the question provoked a physical reaction from Rose, who jokingly turned to her side and nearly clung to the edge of her chair. K-pop Wiki, the audience laughed. Rose laughed. And then everything shifted. Rose expressed that even a simple answer could get misconstrued, saying, "The first thing when you ask something like that, it's like all the articles, all the comments, I just see it like roll down." K-pop Wiki, she described imagining the people already writing the articles, already twisting her words, already building a story designed to embarrass her or define her by who she is or isn't dating. And then the tears came. Quietly. Genuinely. Rose said, "Is this going to define who I am? How sad of a reality is that? That makes me sad. I'm only sad because I feel like just because I'm from a K-pop group, doesn't mean I'm a different type of human being." Popping. There it is. The sentence that broke every single blink watching that video. Because in one breath, Rose said everything that fans had been wanting someone, anyone, in K-pop to say out loud for years. She's not a different type of human being. She falls in love. She gets hurt. She wants to walk through a theme park with someone she cares about without having to look over her shoulder. And the system she built her career inside has made even the simplest human experiences feel impossible. Rose shared that it is difficult to be in the right headspace for love when one is always the subject of a story, saying, "It is overwhelming when everything you say is turned into news." Starplanet and she didn't just stop at the emotional weight of it, she told the stories. The real, almost unbelievable stories of what dating as Rose of Blackpink actually looks like behind the scenes. In the interview, Rose confessed that she would wear disguises to keep her relationship secret. She studied how elderly women dressed on the street, ordered similar clothes along with a short dark wig, and wore the full outfit to secretly visit her then boyfriend. TikTok. She built an entire system. She didn't just put on a hat and sunglasses. She committed. Rose revealed she bought a black curly wig at a shopping mall and carefully observed elderly women on the street, studying their clothing styles and the way they walked, saying, "I matched grandma-style clothes and a bag and went to my boyfriend's house like that." TikTok. She recalled doing this for at least 6 months because she was, in her words, so committed to keep the secret, and noted that at one point she had an entire section of her wardrobe filled with grandmother-style clothes, light blue flowery long skirts and the matching accessories, before eventually getting rid of it all. TikTok. The audience laughed. Rose laughed. But underneath the humor was something genuinely heartbreaking, the image of one of the most famous women in the world, spending half a year building a secret wardrobe of old lady clothes just to have the experience of visiting someone she liked. That's not funny. That's a life with enormous walls built around it. And the relationship she was hiding so desperately? It wasn't even a good one. Rose reflected on what she described as a toxic ex, saying it was just not a good match, but that they liked each other so they kept it going for a bit. She recalled one boyfriend who questioned the secrecy, saying he was overly anxious, telling her they couldn't do anything, they couldn't go anywhere, and contrasted that with relationships where partners were more understanding of the extraordinary circumstances she navigated. Fandom. She was young. She was in love. And she was sneaking to his house dressed as a grandmother while simultaneously being one of the most watched artists on the planet. Rose explained why she was tearing up over what seemed like a harmless question. If she said yes, it would be twisted into a narrative about her being addicted to men, and she emphasized that she is human just like everyone else, and would like to date and be normal like everyone else, but that's just not the case for a K-pop star, particularly a woman. Fandom. That last part is crucial. Particularly a woman. Because in K-pop, female artists face a specific and uniquely brutal kind of scrutiny when it comes to their personal lives. The expectations are different. The consequences of being caught in a relationship are different. And Rose, sitting there on that podcast at the peak of her career, named that reality out loud in a way that was both brave and devastating. Fan reactions were overwhelming, with viewers noting that Rose was vulnerable, brave, and completely human, laughing, crying, dancing, and sharing her fears and her journey, and that in an industry where idols often fear to open up, she paved the way for more freedom and honesty. Starplanet. And here is where the story takes the turn that makes everything even more emotional. Because just 4 days after that interview aired, Rose walked out onto the Grammy stage. Rose made history as the first K-pop soloist to perform at music's biggest night, taking the stage with Bruno Mars for a live rendition of APT, as the opening act of the 2026 Grammy Awards ceremony on February 1st, kpop. The opening act. Not a mid-show slot. Not a pre-ceremony performance. The very first thing 40 million viewers saw when they turned on the Grammys was Rose and Bruno Mars turning that stage into a club, with energy so massive it felt like the whole world was jumping along. As Mars introduced her, screaming, "Ladies and gentlemen, Big Bad Rosie," to the crowd, the moment felt less like an introduction and more like a declaration. TikTok. Think about that contrast for a moment. For days earlier, tears on a podcast couch in Seoul, talking about hiding in grandmother disguises to visit a boyfriend. 4 days later, opening the Grammy Awards in front of the world, making K-pop history. That is the full complexity of Rose's life right now. The magnitude of her achievement and the very human cost of the life that got her there, existing at the exact same time. Beyond the Grammy performance, APT had already won Song of the Year at the Asia Artist Awards, Mama Awards, and MTV Video Music Awards, and International Song of the Year at the Brit Awards, making Rose the first K-pop artist in history to win at the latter. The song logged a 45-week run on the Billboard Hot 100, the longest ever for a K-pop track. Koreaboo 45 weeks. The longest ever for a K-pop track. That is the scale of what Rose has accomplished with a song that started as a fun collaboration with Bruno Mars inspired by a Korean drinking game. A song that topped charts in over 50 countries. A song that opened the Grammy Awards. And yet, when asked if she's seeing anyone, she cried. Because the price of all of that success is a life where even love is complicated. Where a simple yes or no can become a headline that defines you. Where your humanity has to fight to stay visible beneath the global icon that the world has decided you are. The interview concluded with Rose acknowledging that success comes with trade-offs, describing the situation as a downside to everything, and reinforcing the idea that fame does not shield artists from vulnerability. K-pop Wiki: a downside to everything. Said by a woman who, at 28 years old, has already achieved more than most artists dream of in a lifetime. And it wasn't bitter. It wasn't angry. It was just honest. Beautifully, painfully honest. That's what made Blinks cry. Not just the tears, but the honesty behind them. Rose didn't have to sit down and talk about any of this. She could have given the polished non-answer that celebrities give every day. She chose not to. She chose to be real. And in doing so, she reminded every single person watching that behind the Grammy nominations, behind the record-breaking chart runs, behind the sold-out world tours, there is a person. A 28-year-old woman who wore grandmother clothes to sneak to her boyfriend's house, who dreams of going to a theme park without hiding, who is still looking for love and has the courage to say so on a microphone in front of the entire world. That's Rose. That's why we're Blinks. And that's why January 28, 2026 is a date this fandom will never forget. If this video gave you feelings, please hit that like button. It means everything and it helps this channel reach more Blinks who need to see this. Leave a comment below. What was your reaction watching Rose cry in that interview? Did it hit you the same way it hit me? And if you're not subscribed yet, please do it right now. We cover Blackpink with the respect and depth they deserve. See you in the next one. Blackheart Annyeong.